Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the Union Budget 2025, allocating over 6.8 lakh crore for defence, including 1.8 lakh crore for military modernization. This marks a 9% increase from last year, aiming to boost India's military capabilities and self-reliance. Joining us today to discuss the defence budget is Mr. Ashish Rajvanshi, who is the CEO of Adani Defence and Aerospace. Mr. Rajvanshi, appreciate your time. Do you feel this budget meets India's defence requirements, especially in light of credible threats?
Maria, thank you. First, congratulations to Government of India for a progressive budget. There's a lot of positivity on the streets today. Specifically talking about the defense budget, I think we need to go a little bit deeper, both on the wider geopolitics, what's happening, and the ecosystem within the country. The budget has almost stayed constant in terms of capital acquisition over the last 2 years. For example, the number itself, 1.8 lakh crores, is a big number, but what's important is what's happening in the world outside. For a business as usual environment, I think this is a very good budget. When we are talking about unprecedented times, it requires unprecedented actions. And what I mean by that is in the last couple of years, the geopolitical events have actually raised and triggered the race for creating inventory and working towards self-reliance in every country, not only in India. What does that mean for India? That the friends who were available to us in the time of conflict are busy working on their own requirements. And it's important for India to look deeper into the foundational capabilities which are important from the long run. The supply chain challenges which we have faced and we are facing have to be addressed fundamentally. Of the 1.8 lakh crores, 1.5 goes into capital acquisition. $90 billion worth of programs have been committed to in the last 3 to 4 years by Indian government. And hence 60 to 70% of this budget is already committed. So the question on the table is how much is actually available for incremental spend on capital in this year on new programs, number one. Number two, it's not only about programs, it's important to understand, let's take example of ammunition. And one of the key ingredients or raw material which goes into ammunition is propellant. Today, India has a limited base and source of propellant, which can actually put a stock and the non-availability of this critical raw material when required. So we have to start putting our money into some of these critical capabilities across propellant, semiconductors, batteries, and some of the electronics which are forming core of our defense systems going forward.
Okay, a significant portion of the modernization outlay has been allocated to buying weapons, systems and equipment from domestic suppliers to achieve the goal of self-reliance or Atmanirbharta. Last year, the government also earmarked 75% of the capital allocation for local procurement. In fact, in an interview with NDTV, the Finance Minister spoke about strengthening local production and businesses. What does the indigenous defense industry feel about this?
So, two parts. One is 75% allocation to domestic industry is definitely a welcome move. What's important to appreciate is still 90% of that is going to public sector. So I'm not against. It's important that we continue to feed the public sector. HAL, BDL, BEL have been doing an excellent job. But it's important that we start diverting some of the capital towards private sector as well. Amount of 28,000 crores has been earmarked for the private sector in 25-26. What's important is the allocation, completion, and the efficient use of this capital in the current financial year. And what do I mean by this? A couple of points. One is in 24-25, 13,000 crores of budget has been unspent, which has been returned by the defense back to the government, which talks about just the processes in terms of awarding contracts and moving the whole defense sector forward. Number two, the order book of the public sector of all the companies is completely full. What becomes important is now the delivery and the execution efficiency of this budget and finding better models of public-private partnership to bring that efficiency between the public sector order book and the need of the private sector becomes imperative at this point in time. Number three, all the budget flowing into the private sector happening via public sector is no longer something which is going to help boost the confidence and build the capabilities in the private sector.
Okay.
It's very important that we walk the talk. We give that opportunity to the private sector to be at level playing field with the public sector and start diverting a bigger amount to the private sector, assuming public sector has already met their needs and requirements.
Okay. Mr. Rajvanshi, my last question to you. There has been an increased emphasis on AI across industries. How does the defense industry tackle and incorporate AI in defending the country's borders? You know, there are questions around employment opportunities and also challenges which would mean that AI taking up several jobs.
So, Maria, AI has become like a buzzword which is being used in every industry. What's important to appreciate is it AI which is chasing a problem, or are we actually solving a problem for the forces using AI? So for me, AI is another technology and an enabler which is facilitating and trying to help solve the previous problems in a more efficient manner. What do I mean by that? Let's take an example of intelligence and surveillance. Every platform which we are using today is a flying platform, for example, unmanned aerial vehicles. Very important element as part of our surveillance. But end of the day, someone is sitting in front of the laptop, watching the screen 24/7 and identifying potential threats. How does AI step in? AI actually helps facilitate how do we move away from this 24/7 surveillance, provide something which is more insightful at the senior level within a couple of minutes, couple of seconds, the points of interest which have been identified, and give actionable, tangible areas which can be used by the seniors for taking actions. Same in cybersecurity, same in autonomous system. There are a lot of use cases which are coming up. What's important is to pick up a couple of these use cases, take them from start to finish, and develop a more wider ecosystem within India, which can actually facilitate.
Okay.
So if you ask in terms of the potential spend, we are almost less than 10% and less than 1% of the total spend which has gone into AI and ML compared to US and the Chinese market.
Okay.
The customers have started to appreciate. For example, we have introduced AI in a couple of our products, both in UAVs and our arms, for example, and there's a positive traction from the customer that this is something which is actually helping move away from terabytes and terabytes of data into something which is much more manageable. So if you ask me, from surveillance, offensive, cybersecurity, autonomy, the application of AI is huge. The number of startups in India which is working in this area are also very promising. We just need to give them the right platform, support them with the right contracts, and see this whole area fructify.
All right, Mr. Ashish Rajvanshi, thank you so much for your time here on NDTV.